Nikki's hit single, High School in Jakarta, is one of the many personal anecdotes that we can share on how 88 Rising has had a direct impact on our lives. And as students who attended high school in Jakarta, this connection was immediate and very meaningful. Ladies and good morning from Jakarta. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Team Nirvana. My name is Priyanka as the first speaker, and I'll be followed by my colleagues, Mulya and Nessa. Proudly representing India, we're excited to share how it can achieve growth, captivating listeners just like us. Today, our presentation will center around one key question, addressing three key issues allowing your company to achieve the following impacts. 88 Rising is a force to be reckoned with in the global music industry. Founded by Sean Miyashiro, 88 Rising carved a niche for itself as arbiter of Asian cool for the international audience, taking over hybrid functions in the effort of amplifying Asian talent in the global podium. Artists such as Joji and Nikki were all catapulted to success in various forms of music media. Though having popularity among the Asian American population, the majority of 88 Rising's listeners are indigenous to Asian countries, with Jakarta often claiming that number one spot. 88 Rising's unique niche led us to further understand Asian culture, where we see four emerging trends. First, diasporic Asians polarized from their indigenous counterparts. We also see a shifting mentality away from Western supremacy. These trends have a high risk of diluting the Asian roots that characterize 88 Rising's talents, as listeners from their home country are initially supportive of international success, but gradual movement toward Western culture is often perceived as negligence. So many artists of Asian origin often receive backlash because of this after experiencing substantial growth. Behavior in the media is also modeled by a very high sense of collectivism and belonging, with it being a major driver of content interaction. A key takeaway here is that dilution of Asian roots in artists that is often associated with Western success can collectively push Asian listeners away. Now, 88 Rising is facing several vital decisions on whether they should remain a niche player, how to scale while balancing control, and how to remain competitive in the market. So what should be 88 Rising's next step for growth? We believe this to be to scale the brand thesis. We understand that 88 Rising has taken strides to further the Asian cause. However, a key concern on scaling would be not only how 88 Rising can increase traction in the current market, but also how can they expand their market. Following the emerging trends on Asian culture, we observe that as the market grows, the Asian American listener and Asian listener will need different approaches, especially with the majority of listeners being Asian. To bridge the gap, we recommend 88 Rising to scale their brand thesis to be 88 Rising amplifies the sound of Asian creative forces. A manifest that was created based on three aspects of the brand image: the core, position, and persona. The first one would be the brand core. Now, as the brand evolves, it needs to address inclusivity and whether it should prioritize Westernization for international recognition. This leads us to the next aspect, which is the brand position. 88 Rising has the chance to go beyond East Asian diaspora in the United States and include underrepresented groups such as South Asians to tap into a larger talent pool. Lastly, the brand persona. A way for 88 Rising to establish its unique identity is by incorporating the local heritage and backgrounds of its talents in every aspect of production. So paying local homage can be done in many different ways, such as through song lyrics, stylists, or even artist engagements. Now, with this new brand thesis, we shift the focus from crafting the Asian cool fit for an international audience to advocating that Asia is cool through empowerment. This inclusive narrative would require strategic diversification, but at the same time, strengthen the brand image and niche of 88 Rising as a champion for Asian voices. The first aspect would be to keep the talent pool of Asians niche to align with your audience behavior. However, the music genre should remain fluid, since this diversification has shown promise in the past. Lastly, 88 Rising can tap into a larger audience, growing to include underrepresented Asian sectors from the double happiness symbol, where the name 88 Rising came from. Here, we wrap the unique value propositions in alignment with so
Thank you, Priyanka. After learning about where you are right now, here comes the question of how you should go forward. Executive of 88 Rising, I'd like to introduce you to our solution, Revamped and Rise On. It is our utmost recommendation for you to set two foundations for your next step to growth. That is to address your current hurdles by revamping your management and to explore monetization layers to rise on. Let's start off with how you should revamp your management. We'd like to bring to your attention that 88 Risings has not fulfilled its unique selling proposition. As Priyanka mentioned, your brand thesis should be a space that amplified Asian creative forces. However, currently, you still have gaps to fill. One of these gaps is not tapping into the opportunity beyond the East Asian diaspora in the United States. 88 Rising opportunity is far from being limited only to Asian American listeners. Looking at the Spotify monthly listeners of PP, for example, one of your talents, most of her listeners are from Indonesia, Thailand, India, and the Philippines. Therefore, we can see that there is an opportunity for expansion. Expanding our talent roster to include talents from countries with a high sense of community, like such as South Asian countries, will not only enrich our artistic catalog, but also allow us to connect deeply with diverse fan bases who seek representation and validation through music. The second gap you need to fill is the relatability of local origin expression in your talent's arts. Yes, the music from our talents are relatable to Asian American, but the struggles of being an Asian American are not necessarily relatable to all Asians in the world. That is why when Nikki released her song High School in Jakarta, it was viral because more people can relate to this particular song of hers. Then her fan base grows significantly bigger, and more people know about 88 Rising, especially those from her country of origin, Indonesia. This success story is a very good example of how incorporating the talent's local origin expression into their arts could lead to more brand recognition and growth for our talents, and of course, for 88 Rising. Now we can see the problems brought by these gaps, and that is exactly why we have to fill these gaps as soon as possible. We recommend two ways of management revamping: talent management and talent search. To more resonate with Asia is cool, through our talent roster, we recommend offshore scouting. Our indirect competitors in other parts of the world, that is, the key pop record labels, are well known to scout new talents from outside of South Korea. Lisa Blackpink will be a perfect example for this. She's a Thai rapper, singer, and dancer who turned out to be one of the most influential K-pop figures right now. Next, to make sure our talents reflect the vision of 88 Rising has, we need to have effective talent management. Talent management consists of a range of activities aimed at maximizing an artist's potential, ensuring their professional growth, and managing their public image. So therefore, strategic PR and art production strategies must be employed. More details about what kind of revamps we should implement for talent management and talent search will be explained by my colleague Philia. But before going to that, I'd like to introduce the next solution that encompasses a lot of benefits, including easier talent search. We name it Rise On. Okay, Rise On is a mobile app that could revolutionize artist-to-fan engagement and nurture Asian creative forces. Engaging and maintaining a fan community is crucial for every player in the entertainment industry. An EY report found that fans are becoming increasingly interested in digital engagement and want exclusive access to artist content for premier fan experiences. Rise On will be the answer to this demand. The people that are going to be in this app are 88 rising artists, fans, and rising stars. The monetization strategy for this app will center on subscription fees. Fans will be required to pay a subscription fee of 3.5 USD per month per artist to access Rise On. Then revenues from the subscribers will be shared to 88 Rising and artists in a well-thought-out revenue sharing scheme. But that will be what will the fan get from paying subscription fees? Some features will be slightly different from a group of fans. You might notice we include rising stars in this slide and the previous slide. Rising stars differs from a regular fan. Rising stars are potential new talents for 88 Rising. For that reason, they will have the feature to share contents to show their art capabilities. These contents will be available to be seen by the fans, regular subscribers, 88 Rising artists, and the management of 88 Rising. To be a rising star, you will need to fill out an application in the mobile app, submit a video of them showing their talent, then wait for the verification. Now let's talk about other features of the app. All subscribers will have access to exclusive artistic values, such as pre-releases and demos, and exclusive fan artistic engagements, such as messaging and live stream. But for rising stars, there will be an additional value of a one-on-one session with an 88 rising artist. This will be a very exclusive opportunity for a carefully selected rising star to communicate digitally face-to-face with their beloved artist. Rise On will not only be attractive to fans, however, the talents will get benefits too. One of them will be compensation, primarily from the revenue sharing scheme. Secondly, they will be more likely to receive positive community engagement by actively communicating with their fans through Rise On. Then, this mobile app will allow better talent management through a constant feedback loop. To wrap up our solution, we strongly believe that revamped talent search and talent management added with the development of Rise On as an A2F mobile app will set a strong foundation for your growth. However, these strategies will be quite useless without a well-thought-out implementation plan. So I'll pass the presentation to my colleague Mulya to elaborate the implementation plan.
Thank you, Irfan. Ladies and gentlemen, as the new face of Asia is Cool for an international audience, we have analyzed that your label, 88 Rising, is seized with an opportunity to expand at scale while keeping its solid brand thesis. Therefore, we propose a two-dimensional solution, revamping the management team and promoting locality through the app Rise On. While our proposed solution offers compelling value propositions, it is important to address operational and technical risks to ensure a successful expansion. One critical risk to consider is the challenge of balancing scalability and control in order to achieve exponential growth. Scaling operations rapidly can lead to a loss of control since 88 Rising has various artists, each renowned in their countries of origin and with different fan base characteristics. To mitigate this risk, it is crucial to build the right capabilities within the management and talent teams, which I'll further explain in the next slide. Additionally, another risk we are further looking into is the compliance and legal regulations. To protect the privacy and security of the artist, it is essential to adhere to the provisions outlined in the Act of Promotion of Information and Communications Network Utilization. This will ensure that 88 Rising operates within the legal framework and provides a safe and secure environment for its artists, especially given the fact that the artists will be communicating with the fans and publishing their pre-release music on the Rise On platform. The last risk pertains to the perception of the target audience, with the concern of them that Rise On becomes too niche to the Asian market and loses the sense of inclusivity towards the Asian Americans. To overcome the challenge, we propose implementing a comprehensive GTM strategy that resonates with and taps into these potential markets effectively. So in order to mitigate the aforementioned risk of losing control over the expansion, we're taking a look at two aspects of the capabilities, which are the management and production team and talent retention as part of the revamp strategy. Firstly, we aim to establish control in each country by forming an operational unit for the consumer-facing divisions, specifically the public relations team. So a marketing strategy we propose is forging partnerships with local media companies in the form of conducting interviews, producing documentaries in the native language, and celebrating the local heritage. In order to scale further, a part of the strategy would be to create genre fluidity that is adapted to the demands of the market. To respond to this demand, the production team can add snippets of native language and incorporate traditional elements into the musical compositions, striking a balance between global appeal and local authenticity. Another crucial component of our capability building is the talent retention, as these artists are the brand advocates for 88 Rising, and we aim to offer them both monetary and non-monetary benefits to foster a sense of ownership. Through a revenue sharing scheme where artists receive 40% of the revenue, we aim to incentivize their loyalty and ensure they feel valued and rewarded for their contributions. To ensure a successful revamp and Rise On solution for 88 Rising, we have established a clear timeline with key milestones to drive growth in audience reach and talent management. The first crucial steps involve
building the capabilities for the management and production teams, with dedicated operating units in each country, which allows for effective oversight of talents and rising stars on the Rise On app. To discover new talents and expand 88's roster, the second phase of the GTM strategy is to organize talent search roadshows in the form of offline auditions. These auditions will take place in various cities across each region, with the aim of finding 5 new talents per country in each cycle. This initiative not only provides aspiring artists with an opportunity to showcase their skills, but also strengthen 88's connection with the local communities as your company actively seeks out to support new coming talents. The revamp and Rise On solution, coupled with our compelling GTM strategy and talent search roadshows, will position 88 Rising as a leading platform for both established artists and aspiring talents, estimated to expand to 10 new countries, especially within the underrepresented regions such as South and Central Asia. Now, you might question how 88 Rising gains the monetary benefits from the revamp and Rise On strategies. Therefore, I'll pass on the presentation to Vanessa to further explain regarding the financials of our proposed scheme.
Thank you, Philia. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, our respected fellow executives from 88 Rising, before moving on to the financial implications, I would like to humbly request to you to keep in mind that the main purpose of these numbers is to help you visualize the impact of our solution to your company, which were generated with our best interest using the available secondary data. So we begin our approach with calculating the approximate serviceable updatable market of 88 Rising audience that will be inclined to purchase a subscription membership on Rise On. And this would serve as a base number of users that would be the main driver of our revenue assumptions, lying at a first-year estimation of 3.23 million users, which is a 5% conversion rate of the total active followers of 88 Rising artists. So in terms of the app's monetization layers itself, each monthly subscription per artist will be priced at $3.49 with a revenue sharing scheme of 60% to 88 Rising as a label and 40% to their corresponding artists. So the growth itself will be driven by the global music market landscape at a CAGR of 8.5%. So with this information in mind, respected fellow executives of 88 Rising, we have projected the first-year operational revenues for your company to lie at an achievable amount of $6.76 million. So as a scaling up and revenue-generating initiative, our proposed Rise On solution is estimated to bring a revenue of $9.64 million by its 5th year of operation, or 2028. So that being said, Rise On, the second half of our dual strategy, will generate an annual revenue growth of 9.3%, compounded annually for the next 5 years. So in terms of the cost projection, to begin with, we estimated the initial investment cost of our revamp and Rise On strategy to be approximately $6.55 million, which is mostly comprised of app development, SG&A, R&D, and salaries costs that would be incurred by employing a revamped talent management. So in projecting the cost itself, we benchmarked the cost structure of revamp and Rise On strategy to peer companies within the social media and networking platform industry. We have estimated an operating cost of $2.99 million in the first year of operation with a cost CAGR of 9.2%. So to provide you with a bottom line summary of our revamp and Rise On strategy to your company, we have conjured a cumulative cash flow projection. And our dual strategy is estimated to generate a positive net cash flow to your company after the year 2024. And it is also estimated to contribute to a net profit of $4.99 million by 2028. So respected fellow executives of 88 Rising, with an additional 3.23 million paying customers to 88 Rising's business ecosystem, a cash flow CAGR of 9.2%, and a payback period of 2.68 years, and an NPV of $9.21 million, we believe that our revamp and Rise On strategy serves as a viable initiative to catalyze your company's ambitions in amplifying the sound of Asian creative forces to a worldwide audience. So I'm going to wrap up the presentation. So the next steps for growth can be a challenging thing to determine, but we believe our solution, Revamp and Rise On, is the key to solidifying 88 Rising's profound brand, achieving scale and competitiveness by amplifying the sound of Asian creative forces. This can also contribute $15.8 million to your bottom line. So we are excited to bring 88 Rising to new horizons. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention, and we are open to discussion.
Thank you, students, for the presentation. Now let's move on to question and answer session. The timer is ready. We will have 15 minutes. Let's hear the first question from our judges.
Okay, let me start. Thank you so much, team. Wonderful presentation. I want to focus on the app. Just two questions. Why do you name it Rise On? Yeah, what is the story behind it? And probably you have mentioned it, but I didn't pick it up. And secondly, how would you think that this app will compete with other available app in the market? And I believe that this is built by 88 Rising itself. So how would you see, like, from a expertise point of view and cost point of view to build it? Yeah, so three questions. Why do you name it that? What do you think are the competition with other apps? And the last question is on the cost expertise to build this app.
Okay, thank you, Leo. Perhaps I would like to address your first question. So why did we name it Rise On? First, we were inspired by 88 Rising and the philosophy behind what that name stands for, taking into account the local roots of where 88 Rising came from, as well as the double happiness symbol that we often see in many celebrations in Chinese culture. But on top of that, the name Rise On came from the inspiration that through this app, one, we can really promote a positive community of rising stars, of the artists that are within the management, but also fans of the artists. And this is something that kind of sets apart 88 Rising from Western brands or from Western record labels. That sense of community and supportiveness. On top of that, it's also an opportunity for rising stars to rise to the occasion, to expand their horizons, to connect with people with similar interests, and also perhaps rise to become a talent of 88 Rising in the future. And this name was also put as a North Star to what 88 Rising can accomplish in the future. So it does provide a lot of flexibility in terms of what monetization layers we can add on that, it doesn't limit its possibilities. So yeah, that would be perhaps addressing the first question.
Okay, so I'm going to address the second question regarding the current competitive landscape. So as of right now, currently, the app itself is, I would say, we would say that this is a relatively new concept to the fan and artist interaction within the US market and to international audience, but it is not a new concept to the K-pop industry. So currently, if we're talking about direct competitors, I can say that one of the direct competitors is TRU, which is a Korean software platform company that develops similar artists to fan apps for the K-pop industry, but it is specialized for the K-pop industry, which is why we see this as an opportunity to tap on the Western markets and implement essentially the same concept, but for the Western market. And because it is working for K-pop, we see that this can also be a first mover strategy, first mover advantage for 88 Rising. And as for the indirect competitors, I would say that it is the existing social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and stuff. But we don't see this as a direct competitor, as they don't provide the same feel or sense of exclusivity that a paid subscription app does. And especially with the features that we give in our Rise On apps, it differentiates itself from the existing social media platforms.
Okay, so I would like to answer your third question regarding the cost justification, sir, for the building the capabilities part. So we actually plan to build two types of teams. The first one being the management team, and that is the public relations for each country. And second one being the musical production team, also specific to each country. And as you can see on the timeline previously, we actually aim to do a pilot project in one country as the very first phase. And by 2027, we aim to apply a similar strategy to the 10 remaining countries that are underrepresented in Asia, namely South Asia and Central Asia countries.
And perhaps just a bit of an addition in terms of the expertise, right? There are a lot of nuances regarding artist to fan engagements that may be different in the Western market as it is in the Asian market. So here we would really like to impose strict community guidelines just to ensure that there is positive interactions happening, as well as understanding how A2F interactions are actually valuable for both the artists and the fans in this different landscape. So just to add on a little bit to what Philia mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Just a follow-up questions, because you mentioned about expanding to more markets. What will be your prioritized markets and why?
Maybe I'll take this question first. So the market that we will take on first is actually the Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, because after researching the listeners of the talents of 88 Risings, most of them actually coming from Southeast Asia. So it's Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines. So these countries will have the opportunity that we can take, especially for the apps and also for the talents.
Yep, and perhaps for the first pilot that we do plan on establishing these initiatives, it would be Indonesia. Why Indonesia? Because, for example, the top artists of 88 Rising, even though they don't come from Indonesia, the top listeners are from Indonesia. For example, BB, Joji, these artists, they're not Indonesian, but the top listeners are from Jakarta and Bandung, which are major cities in Indonesia. So that's something very interesting that we see here. And we think that Indonesia would be a great market to foster these new initiatives first on.
And I would like to add to Priyanka's explanation. So one characteristics of Indonesians that that the four of us can agree on is that Indonesians, they're really proud of their cultures. And whenever Nikki or, for example, like any Indonesian artist would mention something that's related to Indonesia, it would immediately go viral. And this virality actually imposes a positive impact on 88 Rising's brand image, as well as their revenue gains. So that would be our strategic reasonings as to why we chose Indonesia in the first place.
Yeah. Thanks. Can you go back to a few pages back when you have the pie chart about the cost? Yeah, that page. Can I get some source behind it? Because wages 12%, and R&D and app development is 35.9. So the two together is around 60% already on the technology. So can I get more source behind it? Because the wages looks really, really low, right?
Yeah, so essentially, the reasoning behind this is the way we benchmark the initial scaling up and development cost is to tier use cost of platform, as well as the right of use asset to revenue ratio for the Rise On initiative itself, since our solution is divided to Rise On and the other is the revamp. So we also incorporated the revamp initiative to the initial cost of implementation from the employee cost, as well as increased R&D costs allocated for the PR as well as the production team. And this yielded us the $6.55 million. And in terms of obtaining the cost itself, like the sources behind it, we managed to find the approximate cost structure by benchmarking it to the peer companies within the same industry. Namely, it's Twitter and DRU, since they are both their financial information is publicly available. And the cost structure itself will be for the cost projection itself, mainly comprised of sales and marketing, the G&A expense, which is already inclusive of the employee salaries. And so the wages that is in the pie chart is the additional number of HR human resource that is needed to complete the revamp strategy. And then it is also followed by the research and development costs, which is increased in the initial development year, as we are planning to promote 40 roadshows, for offline roadshows and everything. It is included in the research and development costs. And this yielded also an estimated first year operational cost of 2.99, which is significantly lower than the first initial investment cost of 6.5 because of the R&D costs.
Yeah, can I check it? Where do you consider the acquisition of the talent cost? the artist
Are they
cost?
saying? Are they saying?
Sorry, can you repeat? It wasn't really audible on my end.
Oh no, sorry. So just the acquisition of the artists, have you considered that cost in your pie chart and where it is?
Yeah, so essentially, since the financial information is not really publicly available, the approach that we took is actually inflating the percentage, the vertical analysis, as a sort of a budget for the acquisition of artists, which we also included within the R&D cost as well as the SG&A cost, as it involves a lot of online roadshows and a lot of marketing, which we included already, is inclusive within the R&D as well as SG&A cost. So essentially, we inflated the vertical analysis to act as a budget for the acquisition of the artist itself.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, team, for the presentation. Really enjoyed it. Two questions from my end. First is around the app. So a key element to having a successful app is having that critical mass of users. So what is the plan in terms of gathering that initial mass? Second question is around commercialization of the app. So earlier you shared a lot around sort of why in Indonesia first. My question is, why not just launch global? You know, at this day and age, you know, you have an app, very easy to actually go global in a big bang. So keen to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question, Miss. So I would like to answer your question regarding how to gather the mass. Vanessa, if you may go to the action plan slide. Okay. So as you can see on the action plan, we have actually planned a few go-to-market strategies in order to penetrate these markets. And that is first, so 88 Rising has a really mega hit concert called Heads in the Clouds. And this actually gathers up to around 2,000 concert attendees on their show. So what we plan to do is that we actually aim to promote this app also on the concert to reach a wider audience at the same time. So besides that, we also plan to do like an offline community meetup between the fans and between the fans as well as the artists to make a more intimate session between them. And lastly is our talent search roadshow. And what this does is that it acts like an offline audition where talents would gather in the same place and they would actually audition to be one of the talents for 88 Rising. So why we would do this in one country first is that these actions actually require offline strategies. So we would actually make Indonesia as like a beta testing platform for us to see the success and for us to see what to improve in the next countries. So that's why we put Indonesia as the first pilot project in the first year. However, with that being said, we don't close the opportunities and we're actually looking to see which countries have actually responded to this excitement. So that's why we would penetrate in 10 other countries by 2027. Although for the app itself, we would like to emphasize that the app would go global on the first phase, but for the offline strategy in particular, it would have like a phase-by-phase basis regarding the offline strategies.
Thank you.
So another question is, I think the strategy here is heavily relying on the app, and they put a lot of cost in. So if I may just ask you, if that doesn't work out, for example, if not many users or not enough users as you expected, what would you do to turn the things around, or do you have any alternative approach?
Yep. Perhaps I can take on. Sorry. Perhaps I can take on this question, and if other members would like to echo what I've mentioned. But an alternative strategy, we understand that building the app from the ground up would require significant resources, and we would have to consider what's the payback for that. If it doesn't, if the success is not up to what we projected it to be, other alternatives would be exploring different platforms that are already available. For example, the use of Instagram, TikTok, Discord. These are all different types of social media with different types of uses. So we can build online communities within the existing social media. However, we would have to see how each country or different cultural segments actually use these different social media. For example, Koreans would probably use Kakao, but a lot of Indonesians would focus on Instagram other than Twitter and things like that. On top of that, these social media platforms are growing to encompass more value-added services such as broadcasting channels, and how to determine those cohorts. So that would be an alternative approach.
Maybe I would like to add to Priyanka's answer.
I'm
although
sorry, I have to
Oh,
stop here
okay.
because time is up. Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
you.
Sorry for the question and answer session.